Hi, welcome to Punchline Gloucester.com. I'm Mark Owen. Each week, invite a panel of business experts to review the morning newspapers, find out what's happening in their own individual business and their own individual business sectors, and finally, what's caught their eye in this week's Punchline. But before I start, I just want to thank our fantastic sponsors, Hazelwood's Accountants and Business Advisors. Okay, let's see who we've got on the panel today. We've got Dorian Kirk. He's a co-owner and founder of the Art Hospitality Group, and they're not new owners of the renovated and rebranded Dr. Foster's Waterside Bar and Restaurant in Gloucester Docks. A bit of a mouthful. This is the group's seventh venue, but it's its first in Gloucestershire. It's 6 months since you got the keys for it, Dorian. So we'll find out how it's all going. Plus, what's next for the group as well. We got Claire Storey. She's a co-owner of the Workplace. The Workplace provides workspaces in the heart of Cheltenham with private offices, meeting rooms, mailboxes, open plan co-working across 2 sites. She has made it her mission to keep work off the kitchen table. So we'll find out all about the business, who our clients are, what they're looking for. And I just want to throw it in there. You're also an ex-teacher, Claire, and I threw it in there because my daughter's a teacher as well. So anyway. We've got Roger White, MD of White House IT Solutions. Roger is an IT specialist, has been in the business for 30 years. So we'll hear all about him, the marketplace, what's new in cyber and other things going on. And I'd just like to say, it was a bit of a short intro for Roger, but I'd like to say that Roger's actually looked after our own IT for the past 15 years. What a great job you've done as well, Roger. So I just thought to say thanks ever so much for that. And finally, never last, not least, we've got Ian Mean, Director of Business West, ex-editor of the Citizen newspaper, Western Daily Press, Western Daily Press, did I say that already? Echo. One of Gloucestershire's leading movers and shakers. He sits on various boards across the county. So we'll find out from him what are the big regional issues coming down the tracks. Is it devolution of the councils, nuclear reactors, Western Gateway, the economic business group? We'll get his take on all of that. And of course, all of you from the panel can join in on that bit as well. Okay, let's have a look at what's making the headlines, courtesy of the BBC today, please. It is, unfortunately, the very, very sad story or the crime of Alex Ruda. The Daily Mail. What you did was not only cruel or pure evil, it was the act of a coward, says the Daily Mail. Daily Express, cruel and pure evil, the act of a coward. The Mirror, you know what you've done. We hope it haunts you for every day. The Sun, when you think of Southport, we'll think of the girls, their bravery, their strength. We will not win. He will not win. The Eye, bravery in the face of evil. Heroes save 23 children from attacker. The Daily Telegraph, we face a lifetime of grief. He should face the same. The Guardian, Southport attacker jail for savage murder of 3 girls. The Times, evil killer jail for 52 years. And the Financial Times, Trump demands OPEC cuts oil price, central bank trims interest rates. And finally, the Daily Star, thankfully for the Daily Star, you want a little perk you up. There's a rat in the kitchen. What am I going to do? And I know that Dorian definitely wouldn't want to have one of those in there. Okay, let's start with you, Ian. What's your take on the papers? Obviously, the front pages are full of this terrible Southport story.
Yeah, you've shown those, and I'd say that my old paper, the Daily Mail, probably sums it up with that lead headline. What you did was not only cruel and pure evil, it was the act of a coward. But I think moving on there, if you look at the Times, they have an inside story with a headline, Litany of Errors That Ended in Deaths. I think you've got to question the terrorism area here, the police as well. I think also the parents of this young man. And what struck me yesterday, Mark, is that seasoned reporters, as they reported this, and I was particularly looking at Sky, were actually quite upset because a lot of the detail that came out in the witness statements that were read out in court were absolutely terrible. The sort of multiple stabbings of these young girls was amazing. So yeah, that was that situation. I think the FT, which you showed, is also quite relevant today. Trump demands OPEC cuts oil price and central banks trim interest rates. Here we have a guy who's online into Davos, the World Financial League, and he's more or less taken it over. And he's one of his main messages was, look, if you set up your business in America and produce your products in America, you'll pay less tax. Whether you like him or not, I think the fact is that he's a disruptor. He's disrupted the news agenda. And I was reading a piece in the Telegraph last night by Alistair Heath, one of their commentators, summed it up to me. Britain has one last hope if we go unashamedly full throttle Trumpian. Certainly we need the confidence that he's extolled within our politicians. And I know one of your guests is going to talk about Sainsbury's. They're laying off 3,000 staff. That's in the Times. And a lot of those people are in places like the cafes, which I always thought were pretty popular. And overall, several of the papers are reporting the CBI talking about lack of confidence. And as we approach April, I think this is going to be a major story.
Okay, thanks ever so much for that really good roundup, Ian. Okay, I'm going to go over to you, Claire. What have you picked out? And welcome to the show, by the way. What have you picked out for us?
Thank you, Mark. It's great to be here. So I've been looking at some of the Trump stories, which I'm finding really quite depressing, but I've gone for the area that's not been spoken about quite so much, which is his green policies. Because it's actually having an effect on one of our clients as well, which I was quite surprised at. And he seems to have, it's not been reported that much over here, but there's an article in the Telegraph about it, where he's saying that he's cancelling lots and lots of contracts that he's got for solar and wind things. He's got, I think it's about $300 billion of approved plans that they had for green projects, and he just cancelled them straight off. And so we've got clients who have got solar things sorted out, and it just seems ridiculous. So I was looking at the Telegraph, and they were reporting on it, and they're entitled "On Energy, Trump is becoming China's useful idiot," because there was a race to try and get in with lots of the green tech, and America has just started to catch up, and suddenly they've dropped out completely, and they're not backing any of the solar things. And he's told everyone, obviously, drill, baby, drill, wasn't it? Telling people to try and get some oil out. He seems to be setting America back, but also the rest of the world, because his emissions are going to be out of control, I guess. And it seems to be it's just at the right time when people in America have got cheaper solar panels and cheaper batteries. So that tech's really taking off. And also the electricity prices are actually dropping over there because of that. So he's going to be producing electricity that people don't necessarily need by just destroying the land, really.
It seems absolutely absurd, isn't it, that, we talk about climate crisis and things, California is still burning, and he just ignores it. He just absolutely ignores it and blames the fire department and blames everybody else.
Yeah, apparently there is no green crisis. That's all a load of rubbish, isn't it? And he said he's referring at Davos to good, clean coal that he wants to be using. I mean, just the mind boggles actually as to what goes through his mind. He's obviously, as Ian said, he's really, really confident. I guess some of our politicians could be that confident and learn from that, but at least they'll seem to actually have facts behind them.
I think the other thing, he's got this new mantra. I read in the papers that he's got this new line now. He says, I don't care. I don't care what you think. I'm just going to do it, because he's got 4 years to do whatever he can. Thanks ever so much.
He doesn't care about facts.
Sorry, that Claire.
Sorry, he doesn't seem to care about the facts, does he? And all of the evidence that's pointing towards the climate crisis.
What he lies for a start. He's been well known to lie.
Facts are irrelevant.
Facts are irrelevant. It's what do they say in journalism? Never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Get in the way of a good story.
Right. Not on Punchline though. Okay, Dorian. Welcome, mate. Good to see you again. I just want to say, by the way, I had a fantastic Christmas dinner. All my staff really enjoyed it, and it was absolutely wonderful. I must have hugged you 8 times or 5 times.
Yes, you were quite inebriated. You had a few beers anyway.
I did indeed, yes, with all the team. So
as you should on Christmas.
Thank you for looking after us all so well.
Oh,
anyway,
fascinating hearing the 2 stories from Ian and Claire there about Trump. Obviously, he's at top of everyone's minds at the moment, and on one hand, he's like you say, going against the Green New Deal and things. But on the other hand, like Ian said, part of the ministers here in the UK are sort of saying we need a bit of his verve and to shake up business, because ultimately we're heading to a very worrying place for businesses in this country. And so part of me is like, I wish we had someone like Trump in this country to help me as a business owner to keep the economy growing. So it's a fascinating dichotomy we're in, isn't it? But the three sort of stories around hospitality that I picked out, because that's my area of business, is about Sainsbury's. Like Ian said, 3,000 layoffs, and 62 cafes I think are closing. And in this economic climate, I thought they would be the ones that would be very buoyant. With the £3.99 breakfasts. While you're shopping, the older generation who are, had the winter fuel cut and everything, they might go there to be whatever. That seems a bit crazy, really. Also, there's the co-founder James Watt of Brewdog saying, and he's a big person in the hospitality industry, saying, we got 4 years of hell basically from this government. And then the other one is 1st of Feb. We've got the duty rise. I think it was frozen for 2 years.
Yeah,
and that's about to increase again. Pubs obviously are now owning a pub. I get a feel for it. January's always tough. There's people not drinking. There's people are generally trying to save their money, but that's going to be another pressure on pubs. Not to mention in April the wage increase. That all these things combined just means people have to really pick and choose when they go out and eat, which then affects us. But then us as a business, we've got to put our prices up. So then inflation isn't really helped, or the people haven't got more money in their pockets with the minimum wage increase, because everyone's putting their prices up to meet it. So it just our pound keeps on getting devalued. I really think we need the rate we're going with this government is pretty stark for a lot of people. I think, luckily, touch wood, we work very hard. We've got a great team, and I think we're feeling like we won't be making much profit in this time, but we'll get through it and be strong. But it's pretty doom and gloom out there for lots of businesses, not just hospitality.
Now I'm going to bring. I just want to say there's a piece in the BBC today. Actually, the headline is "Record Numbers of Businesses in Financial Distress," and that doesn't catch me by surprise at all. And already we're seeing vast amounts of people being laid off. I heard of a manufacturing company actually here in Gloucestershire, 140 staff, that is closing. I've got to look into the detail of it, but someone's telling me about that. An engineering company, actually, quite well known. Dorian, just very quickly, the cost of dry January, what's the hit for you guys? Is it bad?
Well, it's really hard to say because we're so new, and I do think that site in particular, it's a fantastic location. We love it there, but everything's new for us at the moment. We don't know what good looks like. Christmas was fantastic, but dry January, yes, we've been really slow, but we haven't got our core base of customer yet because we're so young, and that pub's been closed for 2-3 years and had a bad rep. So we're sort of starting from scratch almost. So I can't say. The other sites, weekends are great, beginning of the week are slower, but that's to be thought of. That's normal for this time of year. But the rest of the sites are holding their own pretty well. But we've got that core base, so I'm sure. But I hear on the street that lots of pubs are just desperate to get people in the doors in January. It's tough.
Okay, I'll come back to you obviously about your own business in a second. Roger, great to see you again.
Morning.
Good morning, mate. What have you picked out for us?
Yeah, so one of the stories a bit slightly off the beaten track from the main headlines, some of the terrible headlines from yesterday. So I've picked out the story about the Russian spy ship, the Yantar, in British waters around all our critical sea infrastructure. And obviously, Russians have done it for a long time, but there's an article in the Times about the ship, the Yantar, which is probing our infrastructure. And obviously, there's a lot of cables in the sea, which are absolutely critical. If you think our internet is dependent on a lot of these cables, and if you think that we lost internet, most people, the world now is completely dependent on the internet. Everything is pretty much connected. So if you imagine a disruption to the internet, that's pretty critical for a country. And obviously, us being an island, obviously the maritime side of things is really critical. So it seems that the Russians are probing around our critical infrastructure, and obviously every time the ships turn up, the Navy, our great Navy, turns up to shadow them and keep an eye on them. And part of the article is that one of our submarines, the Astute, one of the newer submarines, surfaced next to the spy ship, obviously to put them off a bit. So it's quite interesting that this sort of activity is increasing. and is a real threat to us. And obviously, we've had the issue with the pipeline, which was blown up. So it just emphasises the fact that we need a strong navy, given that we're an island, and obviously to build more ships. There's stuff underway, obviously, with the new frigates and things. But it does show how important it is for us to invest in our defence. And it does worry me that we've taken too much of the peace dividends, and we need to step up our defence expenditure and activities. And it's all very well saying, well, we're going to spend more by 2030, but the issue is now, really, and Russia is probing these things, and just the internet is absolutely critical. The other story I wanted to just highlight, if I've got a few more minutes, Mark, there was a British Airways flight with the storm that's going to be with us today, that actually hit a new speed record. British Airways flight from Los Angeles actually hit a new ground speed record of, I think it was 814 miles an hour. It reminds me of the days of the Fantastic Concorde and everything else. But it just amazed me that they've managed to knock 40 minutes off their flight time because of the storm and the jet stream. They caught the wind and they got from Los Angeles back to Heathrow in record time. And it reminds me of the heyday of the Concorde when we were doing. Very sad that we haven't got anything like that nowadays. But the Airbus A350 hit a new speed record.
Okay, thanks ever so much for that, mate. Right, okay, we're going to go over to you next, Claire, actually. Let's talk about your business, actually. Could you give us a bit of a lowdown of the workplace, please? How long have you been running it?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. We've been going about 6 years now. We started off just with 9 desks and we just trialed it for a few weeks just to see what would happen. And they filled up quite quickly. And we were expecting to get the normal sort of the startups, small companies that were coming in. But in fact, what actually happened was, actually thanks to the pandemic, really, lots of other people realised that they didn't need to be working from offices, not their own offices. And so actually it's done us a huge favour. And the demographic over the years has really changed. And it's people that thought that they could just work from home, and they'd really enjoy it. And they're finding that after a few years, actually, they're not enjoying it so much. It's far less. So we have all sorts of people now, from accountants and solicitors and lots of internationals actually that are in Cheltenham, coming out to enjoy the spaces. And also our competition is also cafes. So people that go in there and sit there for the day and have coffee. We're actually only slightly more money than several coffees in the day. We've got really good coffee. We've tried to keep everything local. So we've got local roasters, Ritual providing out coffees, but people get a proper desk and they get a monitor, and it's far more professional setup.
Yeah, I mean, it looks absolutely beautiful. So next time I'm in Cheltenham, I'll definitely wing round. And the prices are really good as well. So how is business at the moment?
We're going really well, actually. It's been booming actually since Christmas in particular. I think people decide at Christmas and New Year it's a new start, so they really want to get out and get their business moving. So we have lots of different people coming in, but I love the variety of the people that we meet. Lots of expats, as I say, but also people doing all sorts of things. We get environmental consultants, we get people that are experts in ground source heat. We get people we've had writers for national newspapers coming in, lots of cyber, obviously, being Cheltenham. People doing literally everything. We've even had stuntmen coming in and using our spaces. In fact, we've got someone filming for social media adverts later on this evening. It's really diverse. I love it.
And what's the sort of number one take of running a business like this? Because you were a teacher before, weren't you? And what was the biggest lessons that you've apart from going into the dark?
It's gone on. There's no one notice to wipe, but it's still people to look after. So in some ways it's similar, and it's quite handy that I can remember people's names, because we've probably got 200 people now, and most of them we know each other, and it just makes it really friendly. So that's a skill that was definitely a useful, transferable one to our business, I think.
Wow, 200 people coming in and out. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's going to bring their kids into, you get to meet their families as well. It's all sorts. It's great. And we have socials regularly as well. So you actually get to really meet the different people and find out about them, which is actually what most people want. I thought people originally were looking for an office space because they didn't have one, but probably 90% of our clients have got home offices. They're actually coming in because they want to meet other people.
Yeah, without a shadow of doubt, it gets very, very lonely working on your own. I know that for a fact. Thanks ever so much for that, Claire. That's brilliant. Dorian, I'm going to bring you in now. Let's talk about Dr. Foster since you've taken over. So you took it over at around just over 6 months ago,
Yeah.
invested £350,000. It's a place I know very well. I used to go there when I was in the Air Force and stuff. So how's it all gone?
Yeah, Christmas was absolutely fantastic because we've got such a big, varied space, with the conservatory over the water, the sort of restaurant area upstairs, and then the cozy pub. we were able to get record bookings over the Christmas period, and the feedback's been phenomenal. So that's been really great, and we're starting to get settled in with the team there. Obviously, when you open a new business, it always takes time to find the right people. Lots of people come and go as they're testing you out, etc. I still think we've got more work to do in terms of working with the community and being present in Gloucester. I think that's always hard when you're not located. Like my family and I live in Hereford. That's where we started our business. So yeah, we're really keen to do anything we can to work with the bid, working on that side of things, working with yourself, Mark. I think a successful business is somewhere that is really embedded in the community. I don't think you can rest on your laurels and say, look, we do a great product, so open our doors and it looks great, so come. I always remember Gordon Ramsay's show. Do you remember Nightmares, the British one? There was a good one, I thought. And he'd be like, well, if you're empty, why are you just sat there? Get out on the street and show people what you're doing, sort of thing. So obviously we're spread across multiple locations now with our 7 sites, but it's really promising. We can't wait for the spring, summer. It really comes into its own on the dock side there. It's a beautiful location. January's been tough, but I think all pubs struggle with dry January, etc. But I think we've got a really good base that we can now springboard off going forward. It's exciting.
And I was going to say, what's the difference of opening here, in Gloucester, say, than opening in your other venues in Hereford? And do you want to just very quickly talk about the group as well? But what's been the biggest difference?
Yeah, the group. So we started 10 years ago, started with Burger Shop in Hereford after doing supper clubs. So in Hereford, we created this little pocket of restaurants. We've got a brasserie sort of steak place called the Bookshop next door to the Burger Shop, and behind that we've got a huge outside area called the Yard, which was very much built out of COVID and done very well. And we just since completely built it in and inside, and we show things like the Euros, the rugby, films, Christmas parties. And then we've also opened 11 Pizza in Hereford a few years ago, just coming out of COVID, which is doing really well, actually. And then in Worcester, we got a Burger Shop and Maneki Ramen, which is our first trial into the way we want to grow our business is chefpreneurs. So we find really amazing talent and give them a slice of the pie and open the business around them and work with them. So our business is very different to lots where you sort of get a concept that you nail really well, and the hedgehog concept, you roll it out. We've gone a different route, which means it's harder and maybe a bit longer, but ultimately in 10 years, me and my brother want to be really excited about still being part of this creative company, really raising up chefs. I think a lot of chefs get a raw deal. They work 60, 70 hours a week behind the stoves, and then what have they got at the end of it? But if they can actually build, have a slice of the business and have something to hang their hat on at the end of all their hard work, it's great. But yeah, Gloucester's very new. I mean, I think the location, we thought we'd be flying, super busy all the way from the start, just in that location. But I think Gloucester's a place where you need to get to know people, and people need to trust that you're doing a good job to come and spend their money with you. So it's been a big learning curve for sure.
Okay, thanks ever so much for that. And I know that Roger and I had a nice steak there as well. Won't keep banging on about it.
Yeah, and
Thank
a pork chop. We've had a pork chop on another occasion. I had a pork chop.
That's right. I think they're quite a lot, actually. Anyway, Roger,
My mouth's watering now.
Let's go over to your business, Roger. Obviously, you've been in business 30 years.
35, Mark, 35.
Is it 35 years? Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
time ticks away, doesn't it?
So the marketplace has changed considerably from when you first started. Let's start on that then, because it's all in the cloud now.
Well, obviously, when I started, there was no internet. It was all green screens, and so as you'd expect in a technology business, things move along. And obviously, the big push now is putting things into the cloud. Everybody wants their systems in the cloud, which is fine if you've got a good internet connection. But you wouldn't believe the places that still struggle to get a decent internet. It is getting better all the time. but you still have business parks who can't get a decent speed. There's no point putting your systems in the cloud if your internet is really slow, obviously, and then it could be a disaster. But it is getting there. And the other part of our business, not just the IT support, but connecting people's systems. I started the business as a developer, sat in a darkened room doing coding, not seeing the light of day. Obviously back in those days, it was a lot of database type things. And nowadays, it's all about connecting people's cloud systems together. So if you've got a CRM system and then you've got a manufacturing system and you don't want to enter the data twice, then I've got a team of developers who spend their time getting the systems to talk to each other, so the data goes seamlessly between two systems in the cloud. So that's a big market for us now, is getting these systems to talk to each other. Some systems just do it anyway, but a lot of the time you do need a developer to do something clever to get the data between the systems. So that's a big market.
And how is business?
Yeah, very, very buoyant, actually. For me, the IT support is great, but the development stuff is the real icing on the cake. And we've been really busy for the last few months. Obviously, there's always the Christmas slowdown, but we still had a lot of projects on the go. Yeah, feeling really positive. Obviously, I'm glad I'm not in hospitality and I'm in technology. But yeah, it still has its ups and downs. So. Okay,
thanks ever so much for that, Roger. And we're all grateful that we're not in hospitality, Dorian. Yeah. And I'm sure Claire would agree with you 100% about the internet connection. You've got to have fast internet, especially in a workplace like yours, isn't it? You don't want to rock up.
Yeah, that's it.
I hate to say it, there's a couple of hubs I go to and the internet is not great, which is...
Yeah, we were really lucky. We've managed to put in gigabit lines straight into ours, so we were very lucky on our location, actually.
Good stuff, yeah. Thank you for that. Ian, great to see you. Always great to have you on the show. Right, there's so much stuff bubbling away, isn't there? 2025. Let's whip through some of them. Devolution, let's start with that because that's...
Yeah, before I do that, can I just say what a great selection of businesses you've got this morning. You know, I've been really, really enthused by what they've been saying. And I think one of the key things in Gloucestershire, government talk about growth. How are we going to get growth? In Gloucestershire, my view, we're going to get growth by encouraging, incentivising the SMEs in this county. We have just under 30,000 of them. And most of those, Mark, are micro businesses, 0 to 10 people. So that's the sort of background for me. That's what we've got to do. But there is a lot going on. Let's talk about devolution first. Most people probably couldn't care less about it, don't understand it. But at the heart of it is this, and I support this, better integration of decisions, particularly on planning. In Gloucestershire, we have 6 district councils plus a county council. Planning is a complete nightmare. We've never had a proper spatial strategy in this county. It causes massive problems for businesses who want to expand. You would think, wouldn't you, you could contact a district council and they might have a list of the sites available. That doesn't work at all. So integration is important. Devolution, what is actually going on? Well, the key thing at the moment is that the Tories, who are in control of the county council, want to get the county council elections in May suspended. I talked to the leader of the county council, Stephen Davies, last night, and he told me that they should have that decision by the end of the month. Probably a bit later than that, because there are legal reasons it can't be any later. So that's very major. What is going to happen? Essentially, there isn't a choice here. The Labour Party, in their wisdom, are saying, look, district councils go. I agree with that, basically. The politicians, most of them, don't. Why is that? Well, obviously, they're going to be out of a job. My view is that the public want more efficiency of services, nothing less, nothing more. How long will this take? I would guess at least 2 years. And we're going to have a lot of talking between that, a lot of politics. So it's a very difficult one. But looking at things very positively, you mentioned nuclear this morning when that story in the Times about the nuclear subs and Rolls-Royce. Very shortly, we're going to get the result of a competitive bid for these new mini nuclear stations, reactors, about size of about 3 football pitches each. And Rolls-Royce, I hope, will get that bid. But the big thing is this. These are going to be sited in Albury and Berkeley. And I talk about this quite a lot and people don't believe me, but I've just done an interview with Simon Bowen, the head of Great British Nuclear, and he talks to me about this will mean billions of pounds of investment into Gloucestershire, hundreds of jobs. So that is actually going to happen. We've also got, of course, the Golden Valley. My view on the Golden Valley, great idea, but what is actually happening on it? So, I think it's a huge job. I don't like the word cyber all the time. I like the word digital. I think it's a digital umbrella for Gloucestershire, right by the side of GCHQ. Lots of money put into it by Cheltenham Borough Council, millions and millions. We can't see much yet, so let's hope, we're going to get something out of it. So those are a couple of the things. I think my main concern, like Dorian at the moment, is April. I think we are in for a very rough time with the national insurance hike of 15%, plus the living wage rises. I think hospitality is going to be under the microscope, and it's brilliant to hear what Dorian is doing. It's also great to hear what Claire is doing, and I thought those prices that Claire put up were very good. And I'm in favour of the idea of people going back into the office or meeting in places like Claire's. And in terms of Roger, he seems to be one of those IT people who are down to earth, not in the clouds, so to speak.
You should go for a drink with him, mate. Well, he's definitely out of it. Okay,
I've got a picture somewhere of me in a fluffy cloud that Mark did for me years ago.
Well, I actually had Roger in an astronaut suit, a cloud, a policeman, I think on a ship. We did loads of stuff.
Thunderbirds, where Thunderbirds are go, with my head stuck on there. Yeah. Anyway, that's another subject.
Anyway, okay, guys, we'll have to move on because we're running a little bit over. So let's talk about pick of the punchline. So I'm going to start with you this time, Claire. What have you picked out for us, please?
I really like the article about Dale Vince in Stroud Ecotricity and his new, started in December, I think, his cafeteria that's subsidised, and they're only going plant-based, which is a brave move, I thought. It'd be interesting actually to see interviews with people that are working there if they're prepared to put their name to it, to see what they actually think of it. Hopefully he can actually do a really good job, and actually that could encourage more people to actually go vegan or vegetarian, which I'm not, I must add. But it's great that some restaurants are doing this. And I went out recently to the Coconut Tree in Cheltenham and they had fantastic vegan food, and I wouldn't normally touch it, but it was actually amazing. So if he can actually pull that off, I think that'll be fantastic. Maybe some others can follow.
Okay, thanks so much for that, Claire. Roger, what's your pick of the punchlines?
I got a couple of stories from Punchline. The update on the 417, obviously it's a long time coming, but it's fantastic that it's making great progress. There was a great video, which is a run through of the progress, because you don't, when you drive up and down Birdlip Hill, you don't necessarily, obviously you see a lot of progress, but when you actually look at it from the article, it's tremendous what they're how quickly they're actually getting on with it. And there's I think over the next 10 days there is these big beams coming for the big overbridge. So they've got to shut the road to get the delivery done. But it's fantastic to see the progress that's being made. Obviously, we've got to put up with a few more years of traffic chaos and the danger of it all, but it's great to see it working. And the other story I wanted to just mention was about the King's School, Gloucester. I'm an ex-King's boy, and I always love to see stories about the King's School and the fact that they're in the Good School Guide, not the Good Food Guide, the Good School Guide for the first time in its history. And it's great to see the school doing well, the old school doing well, and obviously it's a key part of Gloucester. And I love the fact any positive articles, and there was an article about the good schools. They're in the Good Schools Guide, and it's always really positive, and I love that.
Okay, thank you very much, Roger. Ian, what have you picked out for us, please? Pick the punch.
Well, I agree with Roger. Everyone look at that video. It is absolutely amazing. And there's going to be at its height about 800 people working on that site. Also, your story, your ongoing story after your exclusive on the Lloyds Bank redundancies, you've kept on that. You know, the art of journalism is to keep going on a story. And you had a story this week about the redundancies there. So good on that. People want to know that sort of detail.
It was a big story for us as well. A lot of people very concerned who work at Lloyds, what they're doing there. It's really unfair. Thanks so much for that. Ian, Dorian, what have you picked out for us, please?
I just thought I'd share a positive, sort of business story about the Gloucester gift card and how that's doing really well. You got you and your red trousers, breaking a leg, whatever you're doing, and then Emily there from the bid who does a fantastic job. So I thought I always think it's important to focus on the positive, because if we always just focus on the negative, we won't get anywhere. So I think it's always good to balance things.
Well, I couldn't agree more, actually. We try that here at Punchline. It's very difficult, especially when COVID is on. But no,
Yes.
Thank you very much for those. My pick of the Punchlines has to be actually Gloucestershire County Council awarding the £60 million highways contract to Global WSB, so that junction M5 of the junction 10 will be unlocking that, because once you start work on that will open the whole over 250 odd million quid, which will go to help with the Golden Valley development. So you've got to have that roundabout first in order to do the other things. So that was my big story of the day, or story of the week. So unfortunately, guys, that's all we've got time for. I just would like to thank my fantastic panel. Thank you ever so much for joining us today. I'd like to thank our wonderful sponsors, Hazelwood's Accountants and Business Advisors, and we really, really couldn't do the show without them. And finally, a big thank you to all of you that are watching. So if you like the show, please like, share, and subscribe. We'll be back again next week. But in the meantime, remember, it's all in the Punchline. Bye.